be travelling to see you at wherever it is, Walsall. And I won't be going to the new ground when you build that, because that's obviously going to be outside the city boundary, because the council won't give you the permission to have land within it. You were asked a question on Friday about the PSL licences. The only answer that you gave was that you've put into what you've planned some goodwill to enable us to get the value of those seats at another place, i.e. Walsall or the new ground. What happens if you don't want to go to the new ground? What are you going to do then? I paid £275 for my seat like everyone else did.
Yeah, and that was...
And I've got a brick in the wall as well. You haven't... You make these statements, and then when everybody jumps up and says, what the hell are you doing? You then say, oh, but of course we'll negotiate with you, we'll talk to you about it. You just make the statements and then are surprised by people's reaction.
We've had a number of conversations with seat holders, and we've answered all the emails, and my colleagues at the back there have answered all the emails that they've received. And what we've said is, we will come up with a solution that works for each person. And it may be that one person says, actually, frankly, I don't want to come again. I paid a one-off fee of £275, but I did want to continue having a season ticket, and I'm sure there's a deal to be done. However, there are those people that say, actually, you know what, just put my seat in escrow, let's call it, for the next 3 years, because what I'd like to be able to do is participate in a new stadium. Good luck to them. And then there are those who say, actually, I might want to come to the ground share. Is there anything you can do around a package to allow me to have my own seat? And by the way, would there be any goodwill in going to a new stadium? The answer to that is yes.
Okay, we've got two more questions before we finish from two gentlemen who have not yet spoken. One thing.
Hi, my name's Tom. I just wanted to say, Tim, if you take anything away from the last three forums of the last few days, it's that the fans here cheered the prospect of a separate club run with completely new players rather than support a CSU-run team. You know, it's just with hedge funds, there's good investments and there's bad investments, and this has been a bad investment for you, and it's time to go. It's time to say, we had a shot, we tried, it hasn't worked. For the best of the fans, this is our club. It's not your business, it's our club, and without it, a lot of us would be a bit lost. It's time to just say, all right, okay, let's go. Let's welcome someone else in to try and steer the club somewhere better.
And I respect your view.
Gentleman here, final question. Tell us who you are.
Hi, Steve. Picking up on a couple of points you've made throughout the evening, Tim. One was around good common business practice. The second around Mr. Appleton achieving the best possible deal for the creditors, one of which is CISO, and one of course is ACL. A common good practice adage is your best loss is your first loss. With that in mind, and the fact that if CISO are to be the preferred bidder, not necessarily the best in terms of the value they're offering for limited, but the preferred bidder, that's going to involve a significant payment to ACL as a creditor, surely. In which case, you talk about extensive legal costs. That doesn't seem to make good common business practice.
No debts will be left behind, so everybody will be paid in full.
Including ACL?
Of course, including ACL.
Then why not have paid them in the initial period? Still have I understand the revenues to be gained from a new stadium experience. I forget the term you referred to it as, but pay that scheme off in the future, but pay and stay at the Rico, maintain your fan base, not lose 10 points at the end of last season, and you go there in 3 years with perhaps a great number of the fans following you, as opposed to what you're talking about now, a much limited, reduced number. It doesn't make good business sense to me. I'm struggling to understand. Is it personality? On both sides?
No, I don't think it is personality. There's nothing personal in this. This is business. We set out to do a deal, and we undertook to pay an interim rent for all the time the negotiations were going off. So for whatever reason, and you would have to ask ACL and the constituent shareholders, they took a series of legal actions which were actually mirrored the exact legal actions that were taken against Jeffrey Robinson's regime back in 2006, and they decided to push the club into administration. And if you remember, on March the 13th, Mr. Nicholas Carter's statement, and it was very clear, said, we want to find a new owner for the football club, and we believe that we've had lots of interest, but only interest that could be realised if it was through an administration process. So hence we issued a judicial review, because we believe that the negotiations were in bad faith and there was an improper cause to what was going on, and ultimately the council and ACL were trying to wrestle control of the club away from Sisu.
And just remind us of the timescale of that judicial review again.
The judicial review will find in the next, I would imagine, 6 weeks.
Right. One final question from me before we finish. You or whoever it is that Paul Appleton decides is going to be the preferred bidder then has to take it out of administration. Now, administration is something that happens to lots of businesses all the time within the law of the land. The Football League doesn't like the law of the land, which is why, if it takes exception to the way you exit administration, it imposes a further points penalty. How likely is that for next season, do you think, that Coventry City Football Club will start next season with a further points penalty?
We are very mindful and sensitive to that, and that's why we would work with the Football League to make sure that we had an agreed exit to the administration.
So if you're the preferred bidder, there won't be, you don't think, a further points penalty?
We would hope not, because we would hope to agree the exact exit with the Football League.
Right, but we've just seen that happen with Aldershot, for example, who've gone down to Blue Square Premier. They will start next season with a 10-point penalty because of the way they exited administration.
And the question I asked you, I'm not so sure whether they agreed with the Football League how they might exit the administration.
Okay. Right. So how do you do it to make sure you don't then? Can you explain that to us?
Well, there is something called, there is a CVA, and there's a voluntary liquidation. What you've got to make sure is that the voluntary liquidation of the company does not include any football assets.
Right, okay. One just word of warning, Tim, there is a Sisu ad balloon popping around, but I don't think Peter Natchell-Hugerson's in the room, so you're probably okay before you leave tonight. He's not going to tie it to any part of your car. Thank you very much indeed, ladies and gentlemen, for being with us.
Stuart,
very quickly.
Sorry, very quickly.
Yeah.
Before you wrap this up, so these gentlemen realise and appreciate the full extent of the feeling about moving our club outside of the city, why don't you take a show of hands on who will?
Yeah, okay, we did that on Thursday. I'm happy to do it again. Let's do 2 shows of hands then. First of all, how many of the people in this room, wherever this ground share venue may be, Walsall, Birmingham, wherever, how many people would still go and support Coventry City for up to 3 years at another venue? And again, as we had on Thursday, what, 10 dozen hands maybe? How many people then, after the 3 years, will go and support Coventry City in a new stadium built in the Coventry City area, as Tim puts it? Put your hands up, please. Please show if you'll go and see. We're assuming if we're talking about the new ground, CC would be in charge. So please put your hands up if you'll go and follow the club elsewhere. I have to say that is far less than we had on Thursday. We had about a third of the room on Thursday show their hands to say they would. Thank you for suggesting that. Interesting observation. All I will ask you to do now is to put your hands together for Coventry City Football Club, that it survives all of this and goes forward. Thank you very much indeed.